The receptionist's smile disappeared the moment she saw my son's faces. Seo Jun SSI has visitors, she whispered into her headset, her eyes darting between my boys and the executive photos on the wall. That's when I knew, after 10 years of hiding, we were about to shatter everything. Mama, why does everyone keep staring? Kemi whispered in Yoruba, his small hand gripping mine tighter. Speak English here, my love, I replied, my voice steadier than my racing heart. And stand tall, we belong anywhere we choose to be. I should have prepared them better. But before I tell you why I kept this secret for 10 years, subscribe to Mystic Tale by Luna, because some truths are too dangerous to tell. The marble lobby of Hanwol Tech gleamed under fluorescent lights, all polished surfaces and corporate Korean formality. My son's sneakers squeaked against the pristine floor, their second-hand clothes suddenly feeling shabby against the backdrop of designer suits and expensive briefcases. The wealth disparity hit me like a physical blow. This was Seo Jun's world now, all glass and steel and money. Emma, look, Tund pointed at the company photos lining the walls. That man looks like us. Several employees turned at his broken Korean, their conversations stopping mid-sentence. I watched their eyes move from my son's faces to the portrait of the company's youngest executive director, and back again. The resemblance was undeniable, the same sharp jawline, the same intense dark eyes, even the same stubborn cowlick that refused to lay flat. Yes, baby. He does look like you, I murmured, smoothing Tun's unruly hair. My heart hammered against my ribs as the elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Security guards whispered into their radios. Office workers pretended to study their phones while stealing glances at us. The air itself seemed to vibrate with tension, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. Then I saw him. Seo Jun stepped out of the elevator, his phone pressed to his ear, speaking rapid Korean to someone about quarterly projections. He looked exactly as I remembered, but polished now, expensive suit, confident stride, the boy I'd loved grown into a man who commanded respect. He hadn't seen us yet, his attention focused on his call. Abioji, Kemi called out, the Korean word slipping naturally from his lips. Seo Jun froze mid-sentence. The phone slipped from his hand, clattering against the marble floor. His face went completely white as his eyes locked onto the twins, then slowly, inevitably, found mine. This isn't possible, he stammered, switching between Korean and English. Security. Look at them, Seo Jun, I said quietly, stepping forward. Really look at your sons. Tund, ever the brave one, stepped forward and executed a perfect formal bow. Annyeonghaseyo, Abioji. I'm Tund, and this is my twin brother Kemi. Seo Jun stumbled backward, his shoulder hitting the wall. Around us, phones appeared as employees began recording. His face cycled through disbelief, recognition, and something that looked like panic. No, he whispered. No, this can't be happening. Not here. Not now. I thought I'd prepared for this moment. 10 years of imagining his face when he'd meet Kemi and Tund. 10 years of rehearsing what I'd say, how I'd explain why I'd kept them hidden. But I never imagined he'd look at them like they were strangers. Like we were intruders in his perfect Korean life. The boys pressed closer to me, confused by their father's reaction. Kemi's bottom lip trembled, he'd been so excited to finally meet his Abioji, the man I'd told them stories about. Stories that suddenly felt like fairy tales. Maybe we should go, I whispered, my protective instincts kicking in. I couldn't let them see their father reject them. Not like this. Not in front of all these watching eyes. No, Seo Jun said suddenly, his voice hoarse. He looked around at the crowd, then back at us. Not here. Upstairs. Conference room 7. He moved like a man in a dream, leading us to the elevator without another word. The boys stayed close to me, their usual chatter replaced by bewildered silence. In the elevator's mirrored walls, I could see the truth everyone else had already noticed. My sons were perfect copies of their father, down to the way they stood with their shoulders slightly hunched when nervous. The conference room overlooked Seoul's skyline, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city where I'd once been happy. Where I'd once thought I could build a life with the man now sitting across from us, his hands trembling as he stared at his children. "How old are they?" he asked finally. 9, I replied. "They'll be 10 in December." The math hung in the air between us. 10 months after I'd left London. 10 months after his family had made it clear that a Nigerian woman would never be welcome in their future. "Their names?" "Kemi and Tund," I said. "But their middle names are Minjun and Seowu." His breath caught. Those had been the names we'd chosen together, late one night in our tiny London flat, his hand on my growing belly as we whispered about our future. A future his family had destroyed with their quiet threats and cultural expectations. I remembered that night in our cramped student housing, the way the heater barely worked and we'd huddle together for warmth. Seo Jun would trace patterns on my skin while we talked about everything and nothing. "Teach me to make jollof rice properly," he'd said one evening, watching me work magic with tomatoes and spices on our single working burner. "Only if you teach me why kimchi makes you homesick," I'd replied, leaning into his warmth. He'd laughed then, the sound rich and genuine. "My grandmother made it for me every morning before school. She'd pack extra in my lunch because she knew I'd share with the kids who had nothing." Those were the golden months, before his parents started calling more frequently. Before the video calls where they'd speak Korean so rapidly I couldn't follow, but their displeasure was written in every line of their faces. Before the not-so-subtle questions about when he was coming home, when he'd meet the nice Korean girl they'd found for him. "You're going to be such a good father," I'd whispered that December night, feeling our baby kick against his palm. "And you're going to be the most beautiful Yama," he'd replied, kissing my forehead. "Our children will be so lucky." Lucky. I almost laughed at the bitter irony now, watching him struggle to even look at the children we'd made. The weeks after his parents' visit to London came flooding back, how everything changed when they saw my growing belly. The way his mother had spoken Korean to him for hours, her voice sharp with disapproval. How his father had pulled him aside and emerged from their conversation looking like he'd been physically struck. "She doesn't understand our family's position," his mother had said in English, clearly meant for me to hear. "This kind of complication will ruin your future." Complication. That's what I'd become. What our baby had become. Now, 10 years later, sitting in his corporate conference room, I could see that nothing had really changed. He still looked terrified of disappointing them. Still looked like he was calculating the cost of acknowledging us. "Boys," I said softly. "Why don't you look out the window? See if you can spot the palace we read about." They pressed their faces against the glass, giving us a moment of privacy. But they were listening, they always were. My smart, observant sons who'd grown up knowing something was missing from their lives. "Chioma," Seo Jun started, then stopped. "I thought, after you left. You thought I'd just disappear? That your problem would solve itself?" He flinched. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" I leaned forward, keeping my voice low. "Because I remember your mother calling me a gold digger in Korean, thinking I wouldn't understand. I remember your father offering me money to handle the situation. If you're watching this thinking I would have done the same thing, subscribe to Mystic Tale by Luna. Because the choice she's about to make will change 3 lives forever." The conference room door opened without warning. A young woman in an elegant hanbok-inspired dress walked in, her smile bright and confident until she saw us. She was beautiful in that effortless Korean way, pale skin, perfect makeup, designer everything. "Appa, your secretary said you were in a meeting, but," she stopped mid-sentence, her eyes moving from Seo Jun's pale face to us, then back again. "Mi Kyung," Seo Jun said weakly. "This isn't." I can explain. Who are they? She asked in Korean, but her tone made the question clear in any language. The boys turned from the window, taking in this new development. Kemi, always the more perceptive one, stepped closer to me. Mama, who is she? He asked in English. Mi-kyung's eyes widened. They speak English? And he called you Mama? Mi-kyung, please. Seo-jun stood up, his hands raised like he was trying to calm a spooked horse. Let me explain privately. Explain what? Who this woman is. Why these children look exactly like you. Her voice rose with each question. I stood up slowly, moving to stand behind my sons. Boys, say hello to Miss Mi-kyung. Annyeonghaseyo, they chorused, bowing politely. Mi-kyung stared at them, her composure cracking. How do they know Korean? Because their father is Korean, I said simply. Even if he's never acknowledged them. The slap of my words hit Seo-jun like a physical blow. He sank back into his chair, his head in his hands. That's impossible, Mi-kyung said, but her voice lacked conviction. Seo-jun, tell her that's impossible. The silence stretched until Tund, my brave little diplomat, stepped forward. We learned Korean from YouTube and Aryama's friend Mr. Park, he said in careful Korean. We wanted to be ready to meet our family. Mi-kyung looked like she might faint. Your family? Our Korean family, Kemi added helpfully. Mama showed us pictures of Halmiani and Harabiaji. We practiced how to bow properly. The door burst open again, and this time it was Seo-jun's parents. His mother swept in with the commanding presence I remembered too well, his father trailing behind with his perpetual stern expression. They started speaking rapid Korean to their son, clearly upset about something, probably the company gossip that had already reached them. Then they saw us. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. His mother's face went through the same progression I'd seen 10 years ago, recognition, calculation, and cold dismissal. You, she said in English, her voice like ice. What are you doing here? Halmiani. Tund called out excitedly, rushing toward her with arms outstretched. She stepped back like he was contagious. Don't touch me, she snapped. Seo-jun, explain this immediately. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. Have you ever felt that moment when everything you believe just shatters? Tell me in the comments, because right now, I need to know I'm not the only one who's been this afraid. The boys stopped mid-step, confusion and hurt spreading across their faces. Kemi reached for Tun's hand, and I watched my children realize that they weren't welcome here. That their Korean family, the family they'd dreamed about, didn't want them. That's enough, I said, stepping forward. Boys, we're leaving. No, wait, Seo-jun finally found his voice. Yama, these are my sons. Sons? His mother laughed, but there was no humor in it. These mixed children? This African woman's attempt to trap you into. Stop. The word came out low and dangerous. Don't you dare speak about my children that way. Your children, his father spoke for the first time, his English heavily accented but clear. Not our family. Kemi stepped forward, his small hands clenched into fists. When he spoke, his Korean was perfect, accent and all. Halmiani, why do you hate half of who we are? We are Seo-jun's sons. We are Korean and Nigerian. We are your grandsons whether you like it or not. The room went dead silent. Even Mi-kyung stopped her quiet crying to stare at my 9-year-old son facing down a room full of adults with more courage than any of them. We studied Korean for 4 years, Tund added, moving to stand beside his brother. We know about Chuseok and ancestor worship. We know about Nunchi and Jong. We know about family loyalty. He paused, looking directly at his grandmother. But I guess you don't. His mother's face went red. How dare you? How dare I what? I interrupted, my voice carrying the full force of 10 years of suppressed anger. How dare I raise your grandsons to be proud of their heritage? How dare I teach them Korean when their own father couldn't be bothered? How dare I tell them stories about a family that doesn't want them? Chioma, please, Seo-jun tried to stand, but I wasn't finished. No, you don't get to please me. Not anymore. I turned to his parents. You want to know why I left 10 years ago? It wasn't because of pride or stubbornness. It was because I refused to let my children grow up thinking they weren't good enough for their own family. You have no right, his mother started. I have every right. I carried them, I birthed them, I raised them alone while their father built his perfect Korean life. I taught them to love a culture that rejects them, to respect grandparents who see them as abominations. Tears were streaming down my face now, but I didn't care. My sons will never apologize for being Nigerian, Korean, or mine. And if you can't love them for who they are, then we don't need you. The room erupted. His parents speaking angry Korean. Mi-kyung sobbing about their engagement party this weekend. Seo-jun trying to mediate. And through it all, my boys stood there taking it in, their childhood innocence cracking a little more with each ugly word. Enough. Seo-jun's voice cut through the chaos. Everyone out. Now. Seo-juna, you cannot, his mother began. I said out. He was shouting now, his composure completely shattered. All of you, leave us alone. Mi-kyung fled first, her sobs echoing down the hallway. His parents followed, his mother's parting words in Korean carrying the unmistakable tone of ultimatum. Then it was just us. The family that should have been. Seo-jun slumped in his chair, looking older than his 32 years. The boys stayed close to me, their small faces serious and hurt. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so fucking sorry. Language, Kemi said automatically, the way I'd taught them. Despite everything, Seo-jun almost smiled. Sorry. I'm so very sorry. Are you sorry we exist? Tund asked quietly. Or sorry we came here? The question hung in the air like a sword. This was the moment, the choice that would define everything. I could see Seo-jun wrestling with 10 years of family pressure, societal expectations, and his own fear. I'm sorry, he said finally, looking directly at his sons, that I wasn't brave enough to fight for you sooner. The rain had started while we were inside, Seoul's gray sky weeping over the city. We sat in a small cafe near the office building, the boys sharing a plate of Korean-style corn dogs while Seo-jun and I tried to navigate 10 years of silence. Why now? He asked. Why come back now? I watched Kemi teach Tund how to eat with chopsticks properly, their heads bent together in concentration. Because they started asking questions I couldn't answer anymore. About why their father never called. About why we left Korea when they were babies. About why their last name is different from mine. You didn't tell them? I told them their father loved them but couldn't be with us. I told them sometimes families are complicated. I told them a lot of things that were true but not the whole truth. Seo-jun reached for his coffee with shaking hands. What changed? Tund asked me last month if their father was dead. If that's why we never talked about him. I swallowed hard. I realized I was robbing them of the chance to know who they are. Both sides of who they are. And you? What did you want? I looked at him, really looked. The boy I'd loved was still there, buried under expensive suits and corporate stress, but still there. I wanted them to meet their father before I decided whether to tell him he has sons. He flinched. What does that mean? It means this is their choice now. They've met you. They've met your family. They know what acceptance looks like and what rejection feels like. I nodded toward my boys. It means I'm not going to force a relationship that causes them pain. And if I want to know them? If I want to be their father? Then you need to decide what that means. Because being their father means choosing them over your parents' approval. It means accepting that they're Nigerian and proud of it. It means showing up even when it's hard. Tund looked up from his food. Abioji, do you like jollof rice? The question was so unexpected that Seo Jun laughed, the first genuine sound I'd heard from him all day. I've never had it properly made, he admitted. Mama makes the best jollof rice in London, Kemi chimed in. Even better than Auntie Adi's, and she gets mad when we say that. Who's Auntie Adi's? Mama's sister. She helps take care of us when Mama works late at the hospital. Seo Jun looked at me with surprise. You're a doctor? Pediatric nurse. Finished my degree after. I gestured vaguely. After London. By yourself? With twins? With help. My sister, some friends from the Nigerian community. We take care of each other. He was quiet for a long moment, processing this information. The successful life I'd built without him. The community that had embraced us. The children who were thriving despite growing up without their father. I looked for you, he said quietly. After everything. I tried to find you. Did you? I kept my voice neutral. Or did you look for us after it was safe? After you were sure we were really gone? He couldn't answer that, and his silence was answer enough. Abioji, Tund said suddenly. Are you married to that pretty lady? No, Seo Jun said quickly. No, I'm not married. But you're going to be? Kemi asked with that uncanny perception children have. It's complicated. Are you going to have more kids with her? Tund's voice was small now. No, baby, I interrupted. That's not something you need to worry about. But I want to know, Kemi said. If he's our Abioji, we should know if we're going to have siblings. Seo Jun looked stricken. You would be my first children. My only children. I promise you that. What about her? The pretty lady? Tund pressed. We're supposed to be engaged. But she doesn't know about you, and now. Now she does, I finished. And you have to decide what matters more. The boys exchanged one of their twin looks, having an entire conversation with their eyes the way they'd done since they were toddlers. We don't want to make trouble for you, Kemi said finally. If you want to marry her and have a Korean family, we understand. My heart broke a little. They were 9 years old and already trying to make themselves smaller to fit into someone else's life. No, Seo Jun said firmly. No, you are my family. You are my Korean family. And I've been an idiot for 10 years thinking otherwise. 3 days later, we were back in the same building, but this time we weren't alone. Seo Jun had called his parents and Mi-kyung, asking them to meet us in the conference room one more time. His mother arrived first, her displeasure written in every line of her designer hanbok. His father followed, looking like he was attending a funeral. Mi-kyung came last, her eyes red-rimmed but her makeup perfect. Before anyone says anything, Seo Jun began, standing at the head of the table, I have something to announce. His mother opened her mouth to speak, but he held up his hand. Mi-kyung, I'm sorry, but I can't marry you. It wouldn't be fair to you or to my sons. Your sons, his father spat. You're throwing away your future for my children. Yes. Seo Jun's voice was steady now, resolved. Yama, Appa, I love you. But I won't choose between you and my sons anymore. They are not, his mother started. They are mine, he interrupted. They have my face, my stubborn streak, and apparently my grandmother's talent for languages. They are Korean. They are Nigerian. They are my sons. Kemi and Tund sat up straighter, pride shining in their eyes. And, Seo Jun continued, they're going to teach me how to make proper jollof rice, because their mother refuses to do it anymore. Despite myself, I almost smiled. His parents stormed out, his mother's final words about bringing shame to the family echoing in the hallway. Mi Kyung left more quietly, but not before telling Seo Jun he was making the biggest mistake of his life. Maybe, he said after they were gone. But at least it's my mistake to make. 6 months later, our kitchen in London smelled like a combination of kimchi and jollof rice, the sense of two cultures learning to blend. Seo Jun stood at our stove, following Kemi's very serious instructions about tomato paste and seasoning cubes. No, Abioji, you have to let it burn a little bit at the bottom, Tund explained. That's what makes it taste right. This seems dangerous, Seo Jun said, but he followed their instructions. I watched from the kitchen table, grading papers from my nursing program, marveling at how normal this felt. How right. Mama, Kemi said, not looking up from his homework. Abioji's parents called again today. Did they? I kept my voice neutral. He talked to them in Korean, but I understood most of it, Tund added. How Miani wants to meet us again. Seo Jun's shoulders tensed, but he didn't turn around. What do you think about that? I asked my sons. They exchanged another one of their twin looks. We think, Kemi said carefully, that people can change if they want to. But only if they really want to, Tund added. Not just because Abioji told them to. And if they don't want to change? I asked. Then that's their loss, Kemi said with a shrug. We have Auntie Adiz and Uncle Emeka and all our cousins. And now we have Abioji. That's enough family for us. Seo Jun finally turned around, his eyes bright with unshed tears. You know what I think, he said, sitting down at the table with us. I think we should invite Auntie Adiz for dinner tomorrow so she can tell me if I made the jollof rice correctly. She's going to say it needs more pepper, I warned him. Everything needs more pepper according to Auntie Adiz, Tund giggled. Well then, Seo Jun said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand, I guess I better learn to like spicy food. As night fell over London, our little family settled into our evening routine. Korean homework with Abioji, English reading with Mama, and bedtime stories that mixed Korean folktales with Nigerian proverbs. Mama, Kemi said as I tucked him in, are you happy we came back? I looked across the room at Tund, already half asleep in his bed, and then down at Kemi's serious little face. I'm happy you got to choose, I said finally. I'm happy you know who you are and where you come from. Both sides. Even the complicated parts. Especially the complicated parts. That's what makes you special. From downstairs, I could hear Seo Jun on the phone, speaking Korean to someone. His voice was patient but firm, setting boundaries with his family while leaving the door open for change. Some truths are dangerous to tell. But I'd learned that silence can be deadlier. My sons would grow up knowing they were wanted, fought for, and loved for exactly who they were. And maybe, someday, their Korean grandparents would realize what they'd been missing all along.